Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching the breakfast show, and with Engineer Mostafa Wali, the former advisor to the chairman of the Egyptian-Japanese Business Council. We've seen a lot of nice videos and documentaries about Japan. I'm sure, sir, that you know a lot about Japanese culture, and you have a lot of memories during your visits to Japan. So please talk to us about them. Let us enjoy listening to some of these memories.
Thank you. I really recall my first visit. This was when I was too young at that time. This was early 70s. And it was Cairo directly to Japan. And there you can call it, you know, cultural shock. Not because culture, you know, because all of a sudden as a young man, then you see this. And especially if you are going to have training in very big corporate, you know, well-known corporate. No names, of course, and such. But that was the truth. And to stay there for 1 month at that time and to see the hospitality and the seriousness of these people that time, and I think they are still, to teach you, to give you what you are there for. I'm there for training. And it was great. I think it was 78. It was February 78. And by the way, I'm a February, you know, I was born in February. And there was a chance that to be invited to one of the best skiing, most international, well-known skiing area close to Tokyo. It's called Sugadaira Mountain. Fantastic skiing area. And there I had the celebration. And since that time, I still have a low Blake. Everybody signed for me, wishing me good luck and having
Great.
Stayed there for weekend. So they are very generous people, very decent people. But if you look around, you will be impressed with real things. You will be impressed of how organized, how disciplined people they are. It is not just, you know, something you talk like that. You live it. You find yourself living it. Starting from going on the streets, walking the streets, or getting into a train, getting into a bus, you know, whatever.
And surely that is one of the secrets of their success,
yes,
the economic miracle,
yes.
I guess, that occurred after World War II.
Imagine, yes. Yeah. And here you can see what happened and what they have been through and what they are after in a short time, in a very short time. But let me emphasize the most important thing. These people are workaholic, not in the sense of being so hard-working people, no, but in the most respectable way, which contains the following. I'm talking on real work, in factories or in administration offices or this. They are strict, silent, calm, relaxed people, you know, and fulfilling what they have. You can see this even if you deal with them. So that's something we can learn, especially the concept of work for the Japanese people, you know, the concept.
Right, let me take it from here, because you raised a very important phrase, which I'm also going to borrow my dear colleague Muhammad Abdul Rahim idea of those people have come a long way after World War II, and they built this empire, economic empire, and state-of-the-art technology that no one else could be able to do it in that very short time. But at the same time, could the Japanese experience be applied to any country? Could it be fit to any country? Because, of course, it's an experience that deserves a lot of respect. But is it suitable to be applied in some African countries, in the African continent, especially our brotherly African countries? Could it be fit to be applied economically, I mean, over here in Egypt? Even?
This is a question which everybody would like to say yes positively, 100%. To be frank, culture is essential, very essential element in the behavior for such behavior.
It's a foundation.
Exactly, no. Because it will contain everything, then it will be revealed in every action, the culture. So, their culture, for example, I will take something which was very specific, regardless of how it is evaluated now. It is that Your boss is a kind of, I wouldn't say the big word, God, no, but what he says is what he says should be obeyed as is. And this hierarchy, of course, helped them, because if you have a very disciplined society, culturally disciplined, then what you expect? If there is an order that you have to do the job, then you will have to do the job. Then you get used to it. Then this is your way. Then you learn it. Then generations after generation will go after this.
It's because you're doing it not because the law forces you to, because the law sometimes could be implemented and sometimes could be neglected, but you're doing it because you believe in it culturally, because it's part of you.
No.
Yeah.
And maybe also because we have to, as I told you, it's so the question.
And those who punish themselves when they commit something wrong, be it financially or morally or anything.
Yes.
Yes.
The concept
transparency.
The concept of shame,
guilt,
and guilt, but for not guilt for being coward, in the sense for example, there was Takashima. Yes, he was a very famous writer in the 60s. Then he came to the point. Then he made his suicide, harakiri way, which is well known, that he himself, using the dagger. Anyway, but in general, we should not forget the socio-political, geographic, sociography, not demography. I mean geography effect, the effect of geography.
Right.
I mean, where are you on the earth? So close to a heat like Africa, or so close to Alaska. It has its effect. But in general, because man is man, he's one to he's in a state of conflict with nature to survive. And out of this, the civilization came up. So all of this was an effect. But at the end, because we have to survive, we want to be better. All the human beings want to be better. That you'll find it everywhere. But only how to be, that's the question.
Engineer Wali, Dina asked a short while ago about the youth and the education of youth education, and the fact that the summit is tackling this, and the potential cooperation between Japan and African countries in this regard, and between African countries and themselves. I want to ask, do you think, or how do you think can TCAD be invested in increasing the volume of trade exchange between Japan and African countries, and attracting more direct investments to Africa from Japan, and hence provide more job opportunities for the youth?
This is very important topic and the issue, and I'm sure it will be tackled as the most important issue there, how to get Japan to do more, to help more, because it's help. Because maybe a lot of people would say, which is true, that they are not in need for it. No, but now you can create the need. For example, a lot of industries now where they are dropping it in the West and in Japan, in the developed country. It doesn't mean because it is dangerous or not, but because the profitability is not like that. So they can utilize
look for other markets, and Africa is a huge market.
And other sources for manufacturing,
right.
Which in this case they can invest. And it's happening, diversifying even the components required for certain items, for automotive, for example. Now the help and the assistance and the technology assistance and the cooperation between Japan and China was tremendous. Those who knows the real story, the contribution of Japan with China, although they have a very bloody history together, before. But anyway, back again to this issue. I hope they will find the areas, I don't mean areas regional of course, but also item-wise, product-wise, where they can invest and help investing. And in this case, create jobs, create business. And by the way, in general, the developed world, including China, it is the third economy in the world, will make use out of this. It will, at least it will reduce the level of, the turbulence due to poverty and due to unrest in the developing countries. That's important. And there are some people, by the way, thinking this way, and they are clear. I hope they can do something.
We are talking about a country that that is very popular when it comes to transparency in its governance, and not a single case of corruption was registered. If registered, then the official commits suicide. So. So this could be useful to many countries who are really fighting corruption. Egypt is very honestly fighting corruption, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have launched several campaigns, and even the Egyptian administration and the government are not, wasting any effort to be able to stand up to the dangers of corruption and fighting it seriously, and enacting laws in every way to be able to limit the cases of corruption, the effect of corruption. So I want you to talk to us about the Japanese experience of transparency and fighting corruption, or limiting corruption, avoiding corruption, and if it could be useful to other countries in Africa or Egypt, or countries who might be able to borrow this experience. Could it be fit?
Well, it means just you assume from the beginning that this is a kind of, purely non-corrupt, no corruption. We can't say this exactly, because this is a society with conflict of interests. The only thing that they have basic rules to go around, to follow. I mean, when it comes to the public life, when it comes to the public properties, because corruption actually comes when you violate the public property concept. That's very important. First, the respect for public property. I can say they are one of the very few countries I have witnessed this through my little. I didn't visit much, but I know about them. It's only 2 or 3 times. But anyway, they are very sensitive. You see, Mr. Mohammed, they are very sensitive to the concept of public property. You feel it. When you go around, you feel it. In small things, there are a lot of countries like this in Europe and everywhere. But you sense it, it's peculiar about them. It's something very specific about them. I heard it even from foreigners who were there, They noticed this. This concept, still in the same, answering the same, the very important issue we're talking about, corruption, It starts with preservation and respect and honoring the public property. It is there. So if we have it, or if any country or any people, any nation have this feeling for public property, then make sure that it's good.
Engineer Wali, because we're almost out of time. Just
2 minutes or 1 minute.
I want to have one last question, if you allow me. The ambassador of Japan in Cairo said that Egypt is one of the most important destinations in Africa for Japanese tourists, naturally. So how do you see the future of Japanese tourism in Egypt and in Africa in general?
I hope it will get its glamour and its peak like it has been before. I have witnessed how sometimes you can find Luxor when I was working in this area, and how they are going around, and they adore our ancient Egyptian civilization. They adore it. Oh my God! Right. You find heads of companies. Part of their hobbies is Egyptology and ancient Egypt. I'm answering you in the simplest way.
It's the best way, as always, Engineer Wali. I think, Dina, we're out of time. We have to thank very much Engineer Mostafa Wali, former advisor for the chairman of the Egyptian-Japanese Business Council, and also the former general manager of the Federation of Egyptian Industries. Always a pleasure having you with us, sir. Thank you.
Same to me. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. It's been a pleasure working with you.
My pleasure, Mohammed. And I guess this brings us to the end of this edition of The Breakfast Show. Many thanks to all of you. And until we see you again tomorrow morning at the same time, that's a goodbye.